Hey guys, this is s0ggy from s0ggy coming to you with a support class guide. This is going to be an overview of everything you need to know about support. This will get you the best setup for your style of gameplay and get you to be the best support you can be. So we're going to first take a look at my actual class information for support. I played not that much to be honest, 153 hours. I am probably one of the newer players in the game that's, well, getting into the competitive scene at least. I will talk about the health span here real quick. I run 150 health, however my max effective health, which is on average how much health I have until I'm dead, is 200. And we will loop back to this when I discuss my armor tech, okay? Let's go back to the class armory. So we're going to begin with the armor here. I run a heavy tack suit, obviously tier 6 as the current tier, with this insert setup. I'm going to first talk about the heavy tack. Most individuals run light tack. I, however, am against light tack as the speed boost creates quite a deficit in the armor percentage, which I highly discourage you from using if you are new to the game. Light tack will be the better suit for you early on. Now for the insert setup, you definitely want to be running one massive max health, which will give you 10 HP. This is because your class has an incredibly low HP pool, and this is necessary to increase it. Now the other 4 inserts are all identical. They are a max health tier 5 insert. Unfortunately, you need AAA to SG to, receive this insert, unless you get it from a box. This is a hybrid insert, running 0.9 damage mitigation, 5 max health, and 0.3 health per second regen. This is probably the best setup in my opinion, where you can make one variation to this, which is instead of, where is it? There it is. Instead of running the health insert, you may insert a 3% anti-crit, and I'll loop back to that. So I run this setup across all of them, but I do sometimes swap to this specific insert one time. This max health tier 5 hybrid will give you the most out of your armor. You will be the tankiest and the most durable support possible with the setup I have shown you. The 3% health or 3% anti-crit, apologies, will ruin your regen per second. Please be aware of that. However, it is very useful to counteract critical shots from snipers. Running 150 health means you will more than likely survive one shot from a sniper. Again, most likely. Chest shots usually hit for 160, which will one-shot you. Of course, headshots are a different story. Running 3% anti-crit will remove the possibility of being crit by that sniper. Now, you could say it is like a bro science. It is not statistically proven. I, however, have been rarely crit by snipers with this one insert and 3%. I highly do not recommend running more than 3%. Anything more than that, it is just not optimal for your armor. Now, of course, like I said, I run 4 of these typically, which give me 2.2 health regen, 3.6 damage mitigation, and 150 max health. The damage mitigation, 24% armor, and 2.2 health per second regen create. It is the most general outline for your armor. You will be able to engage anybody in almost any typical situation, and depending on your skill level, most likely come out alive due to the fact you have that advantage. Supports are typically they're very susceptible to just being shit out killed anytime they're caught out of cover. They do not have the blitz shield behind their back to cover any kind of flanks. They do not have anything to stop them from taking large amounts of damage. They're basically just a slightly stronger version than recon, and much less durable than assaults. So be very careful with how you set up your inserts, as it is very situational with that 3% anti-crit, but you can run it. This is a very, very strong build. I highly recommend it. So let's go on to the device usages. We're gonna talk about Blackout first. I run a tier 3 Blackout with an effect upgrade and a region upgrade. Reasons for: you want your Blackout to be up as often as possible, and of course you want the radius to be as large as humanly possible, with your activation time being faster. You may activate it faster and catch them off guard. Excuse me. Now back to the heavy tack that I ran. Light tack allows you for faster movement, and this will create, an advantage for Blackout, because that means you can cover more ground faster while you're activating it, therefore lessening the gap faster against your opponents. That is a situation where if you are past the skill curve of learning support, that is an optimal route for you. However, I always stick with heavy tack and I have no issue with it. It all depends on playstyle and how you move. Movement is key, positioning is key in this game. Be very aware of that. APS is a very situational device in my opinion. You always want a support with Blackout on your team. If you do not have one, you will be in a lot of trouble when the opponent decides to use all their devices to push a point. An APS is great if you have a Blackout to complement it. The Blackout will stop any large amounts of devices heading your way, where the APS is very situational, where it could be either offensive or defensive. The Blackout is simply to knock out as many devices as possible. The APS, however, I believe should only be used on 2 maps. Very, very situational personally. I always run Blackout. I only run APS during Metro and Robitech because their maps are so large. It is very difficult to get large Blackouts. Blackout is only effective if you hit multiple targets. A Blackout is not effective against one individual unless you are counter blacking out, as an individual is running at you with their Blackout and you manage to pop yours and block theirs. That is the only time you want to black out one person. Every other time you want to at least get 3 or more. 2 is okay, 3 or more is optimal. You always want to aim for at least 3 individuals, and please be aware this is a device that's not meant to kill. It is meant to maim them for a moment and remove their devices. If you are attempting to use this to clear and kill, you will not go past 2 people. This duration is not, the way this is set up, the duration does not last long enough for you to be able to kill more than 2 people fast enough if they are spread out, which most likely they will be. They're not going to be in a line, or else they'll be way too easy. Anyway, now that we have these 2 covered, let's move on to squad support. Now typically there are 2 things you have. You have ammo regen. Well, not typically, there are only 2 things you have: ammo regen and energy regen. Ammo regen places a radius around you that if anybody is nearby, they will gain 2% of their ammo constantly per second. Now, that is a very luxurious squad support item to have. You never typically want to ever run this in a competitive match, ever. It is never a necessary device, but it is a luxury item. If you have maybe 2 supports both running energy and you're the 3rd support, you might as well run ammo so you can provide ammo for the rest of the team. Energy regen is the #1 device squad support like you will ever have on any class. It provides 20% energy regen. This around you is it's an area of effect device. This provides not only you for 20%, it provides everybody around you, which makes it such a critical device to have on your squad. I highly recommend you always run this device. It is almost never conceivable to run ammo regen. You may say, well, all my friends are running energy regen and are always near each other. That is true, but it is not always the case. You will always have some form of separation. Having more than one energy regen creates a larger area of effect for 20% regen. They do not stack. Please remember that. They do not stack. So that means if you and your friend are using it, you both don't get 40%. It is 20% all across, but you cover more of an area, which is very beneficial. Like I said, I highly recommend you run energy regen at all times. Ammo regen is a luxury device for squads. So I'm going to briefly talk about my secondary before I move on to my primary. It is just a simple, I always just run usually Judge. I sometimes run the P250, but usually you want to run the Judge, so if they run it, this is used as a defensive secondary. As a support, your LMGs have so much ammo that it is almost inconceivable to run out during the middle of an engagement, but sometimes it happens, right? You forget to reload and they're constantly engaging you, you need something. A Judge is used where you can sit behind a wall, some kind of corner, and allow them to push into you. This acts as a shotgun, which means if they push into you, they are going to die. There is no chance for them to pass you. You will most likely always win your engagements in close quarters. This is not an optimal gun past like 10 yards. You do not want to have this out trying to kill people if your LMG has enough ammo to kill someone. And that's it. P250 is a spraying kind of weapon. It does some very decent damage, to be honest. Fire rate's not bad, everything's pretty good. I still run with a Judge though. The P250 is good, but it's not as good as the Judge when I want to use it defensively. Now the primaries. I usually run this in pubs when I don't really care about any kind of competition coming up or anything I need to worry about clan matches to prepare for. This is your starting weapon, I feel. This is something you use to get into support, but I highly recommend you do not stick to this gun permanently, as there is no Mod Master variant, which means all competitions and tournaments, which ideally is what you're trying to go for. If not, then use this all you want. It does not allow this weapon as there is no Mod Master variant. This is hands down the best support weapon you will have. There is no contest, any weapon, I don't care what anybody says, this is the best weapon for support. Has the highest accuracy, you can snipe with this weapon. I run a Reflex Open 1X. Everybody usually runs like Phantom or something like this. I typically don't run it because there is no need. You guys do not need a 4x scope on a support class. That is not, you should not be in a position where you can snipe. That is something how I feel, which I'll discuss when we're talking about the roles of support, but I always run 1X on all my weapons. This allows me for mid-range, some long-range engagements, but then again, support is not good for long-range. You do not engage long-range fights with these weapons. They have a long time to settle, which means if the other guy's already hard-scoping you, there is a very, very good chance you're going to die if you attempt to engage him repeatedly. The Reflex 1 Open, however, allows for very, very smooth close-quarter combat as well as mid-range combat. There is no, I feel that it is the best scope. Any kind of 1X, I suppose. I have seen other people run with the M21. It is up to you, but I definitely run 1X scopes. This is by, again, my favorite scope. So now we've talked about my MG36, let's talk about my other weapon, the MK5 Far Cry. This I truly didn't need, as I had the MK5H. This is simply one of the better guns. It is the best gun for defensives. By the way, I apologize, the MG36 is the best overall situational gun. It is used for defensive, offensive, any kind of style. That gun fits your style. It is the best gun, without a doubt, in all situations. Now, in competitive matches, you want to take a look at the MK5H. I'm going to show you this version because the Far Cry, not everybody has it. This is the Mod Master variant. This is something I also would use. It doesn't matter. I can put the, yeah, this is good. So you have, I run the Reflex again, collapsible stock, a long barrel on this weapon due to the damage output it places. It does 70 damage on hit with 55% armor penetration with some amazing control and accuracy. This is the best defensive gun. They will not be able to push into you easily at all with this gun. You can defend off almost every kind of assault if they do not deal with you with some kind of distance or pressure you with nades or devices. They simply cannot engage you that easily with this weapon. Bipod, of course, this muzzle brake, long barrel, and the laser designator. That's not really that important. Of course, I'd get it on all my weapons. Provides information for your team. The only reason I purchased the Far Cry version is because this is a medium barrel, and the MK5H Mod Master variant I run long barrel. That is because this gun is very similar to it in statistics. It's only slightly worse in quotations, but it runs medium barrel, and I feel that's a much better design for my kind of playstyle. The long barrel, you will notice that you cannot go near any kind of wall. you will always have your gun collapse to the floor every time you get near a wall. However, with a medium barrel, you have a little bit more, wiggle room when you're trying to get near close quarter combat. Large weapons pose a very difficult time for new players in support. The MG36 is a large example, it's a large weapon. It's a very good example of having a gun that's difficult to play for a map like Tomsk on sea. It's not easy to run into walls. To try to peek across without, being out of cover with that weapon, it's very difficult. So this is why I picked the MK5 Far Cry. I made no additions to this. I just simply slapped on a reflex when open and mag ammo. That's all I did. Now finally, the final gun that I use. These three are the only ones I typically use. I may use the jungle, but I usually always use the small. I like this weapon much better than the jungle version. So I use the Type 95 short barrel, C-Mag, bipod, and the limited edition muzzle brake. You can use the regular muzzle brake. You only lose 2 control. I want it to be as effective as possible, so I use this muzzle brake. This is your close quarter weapon. It has the least amount of damage on all 3 of my setups. However, the fire rate is so astronomically high on a support class. With the accuracy and control the gun brings, it is definitely a gun to use for close quarters. This allows for aggressive gameplay, even defensive gameplay with the amount of fire rate it has. I highly recommend this weapon for maps like Tomsk or maybe Nukes. Nukes is very situational depending on how you play and where you play. But definitely one of the better guns for it. Also has the burst mode, which you can use for long distance, which I feel is a very strong weapon too. This can actually gain some very long distance. Fortunately, with its damage, I don't recommend this specific setup for trying to engage long distance, opponents. Again, reflex when open, and then that's about it for my weapons. I typically run with the MG36. If I am preparing for a fight, for a match, I use the Type 95 for offensive, passive gameplay, and for defensive, I run the MK5 Far Cry. Again, this is only used for defensive. Do not attempt to be aggressive with it because it will be difficult for you if you're new to the game. This is not an easy weapon to master in all situations, just due to its very, very slow fire rate compared to other weapons. Whereas the Type 95 is a very fast gun, and if your aim's on point, then you're gonna mow them down. With this weapon, you have to be quick. You have to be away from the wall. It is a very large gun still, even with the medium barrel. So just be aware of that. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the role of the support class now. Supports are only effective with their counterpart, the assault. Be aware of that in clan matches. Do not attempt to go in alone as, in clan matches, typically you will not go in alone, but support classes do not fare well without an assault to complement them. In one hand-to-hand, 1v1s, 2v1s, it's okay. It's not a bad class. But when you're trying to use device usages, it is very difficult without an assault to complement your class. An assault brings the blitz and the heat, and those can counteract any other devices coming your way if you decide to use the bubble, the ABS, and let's say an opponent blitzes you. If he comes right at you, the rest of their team will be rushing you, which is why your assault can counter blitz. It is an incredible pair. These two go hand in hand. I highly recommend you play with a friend who plays assault because they work very well together. The role of support is literally by its definition. It is called support for a reason. You are not the frontliner. You do not start the engagement with devices that you are not the first one in. If you attempt to be the first one in, you will be the first one to die. Your bubble or blackout is always complemented by a distraction, typically made by the assaults. The assaults are made to run in. They are made to clear those corridors, those long halls, those the bridge on Nukes. They blitz forward, you have your blackout ready, you follow behind. He's gonna grab all the attention and you're gonna come in and mop them up and get rid of all their devices. If you attempt to go in alone, you're just gonna die. The second they hear your blackout, you will be focused. Your class is a very critical class in the game. Even more so than recons and scans, your role is very simple. You are the person who removes the opponent's devices. Or you are the person to bring in a defensive bubble that you can clear with. An example would be on nukes, you pop your bubble and you just storm the bridge. They cannot fire at you, but you can mop them up because most of them will be prone and visible to you as you move up. They cannot fire back at you, right? That is how you utilize the APS as effective as possible. You need to be in a position where you can fire at them and they can't do that much to deal with you. And of course, that's only possible when you have an assault to complement your class. Again, if you get blitzed, you'll just get rushed and killed, or your blackout, you can be killed if you try to do it by yourself. Of course, there are exceptions like underneath the bridge on nukes, which you will see in the gameplay footage I will show later in the video on how to utilize these devices as effectively as humanly possible. I recommend blackout if you are very aware. If you are not aware with how the gameplay is unfolding, I do not recommend blackout. Blackout can get you killed just due to the fact that once they hear that sound, they will come after you. Two things happen: they either run or they fire at you. Either way, you are susceptible. If you die before your blackout goes off, it is very difficult for you to be effective because your blackout has to reset. All their devices are still up. You have not done anything. So if you are not effective with it, please use the bubble. The bubble is it's friendly. It's user friendly. You get it, you pop it, you are invincible from bullets coming out of the bubble. This at least allows you as a beginner to improve on your skill and then eventually move into blackouts. Blackout is definitely the more skill curved device because again, using it and not understanding how to utilize it means your role is it's crippled. It's not gonna be effective. You want to be the best the best support you can be for your team. If you do not provide that kind of support, you cripple your team. It is actually counterproductive for your team to have you there and utilize your devices in a very poorly manner. So bubble is very user friendly and utilizing it is simple. They're attempting to rush you, you can pop it because that will immediately stop the rush and they will try to take cover because they cannot fire back at you. You can peek out. An example would be if you and your friends are in cover and you peek out. It is simple. You peek and they cannot fire back at you while you are suppressing them. It allows your team to push up, it allows you to push up if you so choose to. Just be aware that nades will go through if they roll them under you. Be aware that is the only thing that can kill you other than someone walking into your bubble and killing you. Okay, so now that I've discussed the role of support, I feel that game footage will best represent what I'm trying to explain to you. This, unfortunately in GRP, it is very difficult to show you specific circumstances, so I will be showing you just in general usages of my devices and just how I use my weapons. It is public matchmaking. I am not in any clan matches. It is actually taken straight from my stream, so please be aware that the overlay is because I was streaming at the time and it has nothing else to do with it. I hope you guys enjoy and I hope you guys learned something from this video today. Thank you for watching.
A kingpin. I put my whole team up on that king shit. Counting foreign money, bitch, I scream rich. I'm with foreign girls who don't speak English. Bitch, I live. a kingpin. I put my whole team up on that king shit. Counting foreign money, bitches scream rich. I'm with foreign girls who don't speak English. Living like a kingpin. Kingpin, living like a kingpin. Kingpin, lobbing like a kingpin. I put my whole team up on that king shit. And she just wanna do it for the kingpin. Bitch, I live. Look me in my fucking eyes. If you playing, bitch, you better stop.